and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a sometimes funny, trying to be smart, synthol-soaked podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. I forgot to write myself a quippy thing for at the top. Long live the Empire. I'm just going to use the one from last week again.
Wow, Myrriah. This
I
is
know.
Great.
I'll think about it. I'll think if there's something funnier. Long live the Empire, long live JoJo. I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Mirrorverse Clyde.
Oh, that sucks. That's gonna be mine.
You just have to draw a tiny mustache on your finger.
Oh crap! I thought it would be so easy. Now who's the loser? Me. I'm the stand-in who gets like phased and phasered in the back. Paul phasered in the back. It.
Oh no. Welcome y'all. Tonight we are talking about the last 4 episodes of season 1 of Star Trek Discovery in preparation for our final season coming in April this year. This week we're diving into episode 12, Vaulting Ambition, episode 13, What's Past Is Prologue, episode 14, The War Without the War Within, and episode 15, Will You Take My Hand? First, just a couple of reminders. Paul, where can people find us, share us, get more information about our little show?
I'm glad you asked, Myrriah. People can find us, share us, get more information, and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love, tolerate, or even hate but want to support our episodes,
we'll take it all.
Consider being a Patreon member for just $2 an episode. Patreon at patreon.com/Star Trek. Patreon.com/Star Trek Pod. It's gonna be a good one, guys. It's gonna be a good one.
It's a good one. Also, if you check out the links below, either listening or watching us live, there's links to the Patreon as well as links to our T public page where you can buy a sweet Hot Frakes t-shirt or a beloved Peanut Hamper Mathematically Perfect t-shirt. So, I think you want some of those merch things. There's t-shirts, there's mugs, there's stickers, there's all kinds of fun things. You can check it out there. Clyde, if people want to hang out with us in the chat tonight, what should they do to get our attention?
It's really simple. So if we say something that you find oh, that's interesting, or I completely disagree with Paul just said, here's what I want you to do.
Phasers on kill.
I want you to take out a pen. I want you to write it down on a piece of paper. Okay. And you fold it
into Klingon.
Yes. You then stuff it into an envelope. You got to make sure you have an envelope. You're going to need a stamp, and then you write our address on there. You put it in the mailbox, and then a week or so later, we'll respond. No, Just kidding. If you type capital P, capital O, capital D, capital pod in the chat, we will immediately see your comment, your question, your thoughts. No stamp necessary, no postage. And then in a moment, when we ask you, what did you think about the show? You respond by typing capital H, capital F, capital HF in the chat and let us know what your overall warm nuggets of Jonathan's are.
Great.
Yes.
That's lovely. That's well said, Clyde. I like it. That's super well said.
Warm nuggets of Jonathan.
That's what space whale good. Space whale good.
Yummy space whale.
That was what I originally was going to talk about. That was going to be my opening, was a space whale reference.
Yeah, we got some space whale references here. Okay, y'all, I think it's time we jump into episode 12, Vaulting Ambition. This was directed by Hanel M. Culpepper, written by Jordan Nardino. I think it is time for us to get into some
Fast Frag.
Fast Frag.
Let's get into a fast frag.
That is so. Please, if anyone wants to do an audio of that and just submit it to us, you will be immortalized or whatever
forever on the pod. Yeah, you guys can also send me audio clips of yourself saying these things, and I'll edit those together.
Well, I think people are sick of my voice already. I'm sick of my voice.
I don't think that's true. Okay, so Vaulting Ambition. This is the episode. We're still in the mirror universe. Georgiou sends Lorca to the agony booth. She has dinner with Burnham. Burnham realizes she's eating Kelpie and not having a good time. Stamets is still in his weird coma in the mycelial network, and we get to see a little moment with Culber. And we're still kind of hanging out in the mirror universe, but we get the big reveal that Lorca escapes from the agony booth here at the end. What did y'all think of this particular episode?
Clyde.
You haven't been here for a minute, Clyde. Yeah,
I haven't been here, so I'll jump in and say every episode, my first thought is the same. Dang, season 1 was really good.
It's fun.
Like it's been just really impressive. And one of the things I loved about this episode is the reintroduction of Giorgio.
Mm-hmm.
And my goodness, I know Michelle Yeoh is amazing, but when you see her, especially in a role like this, you go, oh yeah, no. Like in my head, she's amazing, but in actuality, she's even more amazing as an actress than you would think. It's like, this has been a really interesting episode, and the arcs just keep going. It feels like a 15-hour movie, right?
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying this, and so this episode in particular, like the Kelpian thing was like, oh man, that is so harsh. But it highlighted the fact that everyone else is looking at Burnham as like, oh, that's just Burnham. Giorgio almost immediately is like, you're not my daughter. Like it took nothing for her. It's like she wasn't confused at all. And so I thought like, wow, that's what I would expect. So.
Yeah, I thought that introduction with the spinning, rotating throne for Giorgio as she comes around, like, man, what a welcome to my universe. And I agree with you, Clyde. It's like this back half. I rewatched all of them today, and it truly just felt like watching a long movie rather than like particular episodes. And it's interesting because I know this was aired week to week, right? It wasn't set up as a binge. A lot of things start to sort of blur together, and like this is also where we find out like the mycelial network has been poisoned, and so we get a lot of time with Anthony Rapp and kind of this him acting against himself is fun though. It's like a fun way to see how dynamic I think he is as a performer. And I really enjoy seeing Tilly's enthusiasm here. And we start to, I think, get better characterization of Saru. And I think it's building to us finally seeing Doug Jones really step into this character by the end of this season. But Paul, what did you think?
Yeah, that was good. I'm not gushing about it as you guys are, but like, yeah, no, like I like Giorgio. Like I've always liked that character. Not Captain, because Captain, what a wuss, just getting killed episode 2. But Emperor Giorgio, that's more that's more me. I think if I had to. I feel like it's like a kind of the kind way of saying it's like it's a Nexus episode. The not kind way of saying it is like it's a bit of a filler episode because nothing. It's all prepping for the next episode, right?
Well, this is the episode. I will say we get a couple of big reveals, right? And because we do get the Lorca reveal in this episode, as well as the full reintroduction of Emperor Giorgio. So, like to your point, Paul, it does tee up essentially this back half, right? Like it's not, but I don't think I would call it filler because I think at the time, I think it's hard for me to say this is filler because of the Lorca reveal in this episode, which has been building.
Maybe it's like the appetizer of it's the opener. So it's not the real, because like the next episode is where it comes all together, right? That's where all the karate phaser comes in, right? And that's so.
Yeah, this is a lot of like people sitting around tables and talking. And I did realize I was reading some reviews from back in the day, because sometimes it's helpful for me to reread people's initial thoughts of these things rather than people who've been sitting with these characters for so long. And it was an interesting point that they wrote that almost all character development very rarely happens with more than just one or two people in a scene. There's very rarely is there like full character development of people, especially Burnham, with more than one person kind of
Yeah.
in that realm. And I thought that was an interesting point to make, especially, you know, as we get to the finale, I'll kind of touch on it more, but I did really enjoy seeing Sonequa Martin Green and Michelle Yeoh kind of have this more mental tete-a-tete in this episode.
I'd
Yeah,
agree with that.
No, I mean, it's good. Like, you know, I feel like what kind of really happened? It goes like, hey, why'd you try to kill me? And then it goes, I'm not really your daughter. And then like, I'm going to ninja star all my.
Well, that's the
I'm
next
like,
episode.
which one's? Am I confused? It's all blending now. Which one?
I know. So this one is like, we don't get the I'm going to tell you the truth yet. That's the next episode. This one is still like the slow reveal. We have the like Ash Tyler trauma. We have the in the mycelial network. We have Lorca in the agitator.
Uh-huh.
And I think we might get.
Well, no, like the last episode, the previous episode was basically we revealed Giorgio going like, oh, she's the emperor. We come to this episode, Burnham and Lorca come over.
Oh, you're right. You're right. It's,
Yeah.
She does reveal. She's like, oh yeah, you're not my daughter.
And so you know, it's all very mathematical in a way. And it's fun to watch. It's totally fun to watch. This is not me criticizing. I'm just saying that it's all preparation. You know, like, you know, it's all preparation for the big siege episode that happens next. You know,
yeah. Which I thought was like kind of a rapid cut, right? Like it ends with Lorca getting pulled out of the agitator, and then we sort of cut directly to him like releasing all of his people in the next episode.
I do like the fact that you call it an agitator. I believe it's called an agonizer.
Oh.
You know, but the agitator sounds it
sounds nicer.
They're just very different degrees of things. Like, oh, ow, you know, you're really irritating me. This is like, I can't
agonizer.
Get my.
You know, I think one of the things that was really interesting to me about this episode, and I completely forgot that I didn't know. So I had to go back and think about this and rewatch it in a way that says, you got to remember you don't know a ton of things. But the whole Lorca reveal, right, turns out to be much slower than I originally, not originally, than the second time through I remember. Because at this point, I know who he is. And so my first thought was, oh, well, we get the reveal when Burnham figures it out. But it's actually more than that. Like the entire time he's in the agonizer and the other person is upset and saying, like, that was my sister. What's her name? Say her name. The first time through, you're kind of like, don't you know that that's not the right one? Like, that's not your Lorca. This is a different person. And so it's really when he says Ava, right? As you're absolutely certain that it's like, oh, and then you start to realize at that moment, like it was actually an interesting reveal because you don't really know. You haven't really been given any clues. I mean, you've been given some clues. And so when you watch it back, it seems completely obvious. And so just trying to recapture that initial reveal was interesting for me. It was kind of like a who done it when you already know who did it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And maybe it's not a who did it. It's like it's a you did it.
Well, I do think that's like some of the fun
Clyde.
of that is kind of some of the fun of these series, though, is when you do go back, you get to be like, oh, what are the clues that I might have overlooked, right? Like the first time when you go back and rewatch things like, what's the, not Glass Onion, but the first one, because I haven't rewatched Glass Onion.
Oh, yeah.
The Knives Out.
Sure.
Yeah. Like when you go back and you rewatch like Knives Out, or if you rewatch any of the Sherlock Holmes series, it's like, oh, you can kind of see like how this gets all put together, because we don't have like an Agatha Christie style, like let's have everyone in the room and we explain everything from top to bottom, you know, like that's not happening here. But it is, I think it's been interesting to go to rewatch the series and be like, oh yeah, if you're paying attention, like This guy is sus.
But like, to be fair, like, here is a crew of the Enterprise, and no one in the Federation knows that there is a mirror universe. Like, right? So there's no way that anyone on the series could go like, oh, Lorca is actually Lorca. If you just
right, like they wouldn't have known why he was being like this, but it does seem like, oh, something is weird.
Right. Oh, his eyes are weird. Oh, that's a strange quantum signature for all your DNA that we never scanned.
Yeah.
So, but like, it's interesting. Like,
but that's part of the fun with the prequel, right? Is that you have us yelling at the screen. It's kind of like once you had Q introduced, now when anytime something really like bizarre happens, the first thing anyone does is start asking like have we seen a Q? Like, is this a Q phenomenon? Like, they have that, but here in a prequel, they haven't been exposed to any of this stuff. They haven't seen a mirror universe. They like all this stuff is so new that there's no basis for it.
Well, it was really great about my wife being also a Star Trek person. It's like when I do something stupid, like, oh, I just bought this BMW. We can't afford that. It wasn't me. I was possessed by a non-corporeal entity. Boom. Like, and she has to take it. She has to take it. Like, I don't do that, everyone. I don't do that. But like, but the precedent is set.
I'm going to start using that excuse.
and I can commit. I can go like, no, seriously, it wasn't me. It was the non-corporeal entity. Haven't you seen the Pa Wraith episode? Anyway.
But yeah, I also, this episode also starts the beginning of like us unraveling the mystery of Ash Tyler's situation as well. Because now that he's like being fully examined and that he's kind of going back through his memories, and we also have Laurel, doing weird surgery on his head and essentially making him have the awareness that he has the memories of two people. Although that's something I wanted to, and this is jumping ahead, but I think it's worth the conversation of like, I feel like they set this up and did not know. This is one of the few bows I feel like they did not know how to wrap up by the end, because I was so confused, even on second watch, of like, Saru is like, I trust that you are now yourself after this procedure that Laurel does. But then he has full capability to still speak Klingon, access information and memories from Voq. And I'm just like, but I thought you said like, I thought they like disconnected the cord essentially. Like I thought that's what Laurel did.
So I got the way to look at it.
Okay.
Imagine you have like a computer and like an operating system and some memory, right? So you have normally you have two computers with two operating systems and two memories separated. Now you put them all in the same locale, two operating systems, two sets of memories. And what Laurel did was destroy the Voq operating system. So now that the Tyler operating system can access both sets of memory.
But he's like, he controls the mouse.
Well, exactly. Because operating system, the Voq operating system is gone now.
Okay.
Let me try and see if I could take Paul's analogy and spin it.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had two people, one working on a Mac and one working on a Windows machine, sitting next to each other, right? And they were, and then eventually one person was using the Mac, the PC person was using the Mac, and the person who was on the Mac just had to watch. Largely what it seems like they've done is they've created a dual boot, one machine, and they killed the other person. So now you have both access to both machines and one user.
Or how about this? Like you have one captain of the podcast, and she just won't let it go.
No, but I agree with Myrriah because, like, I did find that a little weird. Like, okay, you have this person.
It just never felt clearly explained to me,
and to me a little overly trusting. Like, it's not just he was a Klingon. This was a Klingon spy. This was Volk, right? Who essentially was part of the Giorgio murder,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is a significant person, and you're just gonna say, "Oh, you know what? You seem like a good guy. Feel free to roam about the cabin."
And the other thing that's interesting to me is like this, like the procedure apparently becomes so commonplace that when they jump back to our timeline, they have to mind meld with people to make sure they're not actually secret Klingons.
Oh, I don't think that's why they did that.
That's what I thought they were doing.
I think they did that because like they like 9 months ago they found the wreckage of Discovery, and now all of a sudden this like this ship goes, hey, this is Discovery talking. I'm just saying, like that's what they said. They say we found Discovery 9 months ago, and so
right.
Unbeknownst to them that it was the Terran Discovery.
Well, to me, like when they jump back and I know we're skipping around, but it's just like everything kind of melts together at this point. But when they get on the ship, they're like, sorry, this has become a necessary tool as a part of war. So to me, that read as like other people have been secret Klingon agents.
I feel like that is a possibility too. Like I feel like I've always felt that as much as you guys love the first season of Discovery, I felt it's a little messy.
Oh, there's definitely mess. I just think it's still a good time and it's a fun watch. Like
sure. It's fun to vibe to.
Yeah, and like yeah, having it back on these last couple of days, like was I 100% paying attention all of the time? Not always.
Oh wow, Kyung has a good point here. Oh my god, I never.
They lost the secret by the time of Trouble with Tribbles, with Arne Daven being so easily exposed as a Klingon.
That is actually that species reassignment thing I thought was exclusively to Discovery, but like I never connected it to Tribbles. Well done, sir. Well done. So this is so in fact that this is canon. Like this reassignment surgery is actually species reassignment is actually canon. Wow. Nice. Like
bringing it back.
Like everyone can learn something. The more you know.
Woo, rainbows. Let's go ahead and jump into episode 13. So this is our big pew pew bang bang. Everyone, big battle royale going on this Emperor ship, which looked super cool. I thought the additional sets looked really great. I thought the Emperor like giant ship on the outside looked cool. The way they were using the mycelial network, I do love how much like I some of my favorite things is when they're just like, we're just going to throw some Star Trekky science nonsense out as a way to explain our way through X, Y, or Z. And like sometimes I know it can be like super actually accurate to real like science and physics, which I think is super fun. And then other times it's just so nonsensical and fantastical that I'm just like, yeah, let's live in this fantasy. Let's like go. Let's live in a world where you can harvest a bunch of mushrooms on a moon, and you're going to populate that, and that's going to ride the wave of this giant explosion that you've caused, as long as you're in a warp bubble, and everyone's going to ride and surf to safety. I just think it's such a like that's so much creativity to come up with a way to explain it, because we all know Star Trek fans could not be like, I can just take this at face value and you can go. They have to like science explain on screen.
and even more so because Star Trek rides a wave of something like a surfboard
all the time. Yeah.
All the time. So there's a sense of, I'll believe you, but you gotta sell it. And so there's this, let me give you all this stuff, even if you don't understand what I'm saying. Here's some techno jargon. And at the end, we're going to ride it like a wave. And you go, yep, I know that. Makes you feel all sciencey inside. It's great.
Yeah. This episode was also interesting to me to see Lorca's reaction to Burnham. And I think really told me a lot about his feelings towards Mirror Burnham.
Say that again.
Like the way Lorca is so willing to let his guard down enough to literally get stabbed in the back by Giorgio because he's having like a moment trying
I
to
mean, like, obviously, you've never groomed someone
I
and
guess
then
not.
lost that person and then had to find their replacement
And you
in an
have
alternate universe. Obviously, that's not something you have done, right? And you're embarrassing me on how much you're trying to speak without knowing what you like.
I'm so
'Cause
sorry.
it's just so laughable. I would like uh. So anyway, but yeah, like
Listen,
he really likes her.
He really likes her. Yeah.
I gotta admit, there are two weird, simple things that just tickled me in this episode. So one is Giorgio's getting in a fight and somebody tries to grab her, and she just, while standing,
High kicks him in the face.
does this high kicks him in the face, and I was like, that's very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I'm all for it.
Obviously, Clyde, you've never been grabbed in the back
No. and kicked
like,
in the face.
and like kick, beyond the 180, like 190 degrees behind you.
So that was one. The second one is I was tickled by the fact that Lorca's like right hand on Discovery, they were the security, the chief of security.
Landry's awesome.
Landry's so awesome that within the first couple episodes of the season,
she gets killed
she
by a
shows
bear.
up and she just get killed by immediately killed. And as we're introduced to her again, it's not going to be long before she's killed again.
That's right. Like victim of caterpillar bear number, in the Prime universe. And he goes like, "Oh, are the shields not up?" Boom.
Like I want to know.
She's like dead meat number one.
As an actor, when you start reading through the script and you go, man, like all they do is bring me in to kill me.
Well,
what happened?
She's a pretty big person in Battlestar Galactica, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I confusing? Like she was a Cylon.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so from Cylon, like one of the five to dead meat number one. Oh, I love it. Like first red shirt. Red shirt prime. Red shirt prime. That's
Red shirt prime. I wanted to ask y'all, I felt like this was such a great episode for Saru as well. I feel like we really see Saru finally have like a full captain moment. We get that big speech on the bridge of like, we might die doing this, but we're going to save the universe. I also love that we finally get like Discovery loves to make the stakes the fate of the universe. It's never just like the fate of the crew, the fate of Starfleet. It's like Discovery loves it to be the fate of the universe, and it's like that's continued for almost every season. So I think it's like such a fun, like, I don't know, hallmark of this series, I guess, is like, oh, we're inevitably going to build these stakes up to be such big stakes that you like everyone is willing to put up their lives for the sake of everyone else.
Yeah. Like I have a theory about the last season.
Oh.
Like, do we know anything about it?
That there is like a mystery box that they have to retrieve, but someone else comes and steals it, and then it's like a chase across the galaxy is all I've heard thus far.
Because like there's a part of me, like how at the end of this episode, Lorca meets his fate, like in the core of the mycelium. But I go like, oh, I always assume that he just burned up. But what if he got absorbed into the mycelial network, and he's there, and he'd be alive for 900 years, and he'd be back, and you could bring Lorca back for the last season.
I mean, I feel like I love Jason Isaacs, so I wouldn't be mad. But that would be a wild twist.
I mean, like
I like official Paul Predictus.
Yeah, but like it is basically like the return of Malfoy's dad.
The return of Malfoy's dad. Yeah, wow. I think. Let's see. Some thoughts from critics from the past on this particular episode said the Terran Empire is really easy to overthrow, huh? Which I think is a little shady but funny.
if you have the clone, like the equivalent of the princess of the Terran Empire, yeah, it's pretty easy compared to just having like
Yeah.
rebel scum.
But I did really enjoy all of the fight sequences in this episode. I think anytime you have Michelle Yeoh in a project and you don't give me a badass fight sequence, you are wasting my time. So I was very thrilled to watch this episode. And I know anytime I've ever watched behind the scenes of her working, particularly on Discovery, when there are fight sequences, like even the stunt coordinators are like, yeah, when Michelle Yeoh tells you a way to make it look better, you listen to her because she knows what the fuck she's talking about.
But do you ever think like Michelle Yeoh or Donnie Yang or Jet Li or ever in a movie and it's just like, can I just do like a monologue? Like, is it okay? I just want to do a monologue. Like, I don't want to do any moves.
I mean, if they want to and that's what they want to do, sure. But it makes me sad as a fan.
It does. I mean, I'm just like, can you do your monologue while in a wire harness with
Why not?
your hands out like that? Like, can you do that?
I just started The Brother's Son. Have y'all watched any of that on Netflix? The new Michelle Yeoh show. It's a little pulpy, but it's fun. But the whole first episode, like we don't get Michelle Yeoh fighting yet, and I was like, if y'all don't give me what I want, I'm gonna be so mad. I mean, the fight choreography is great, and there's a lot of other really wonderful actors in the series, but I'm just like, she's right there. She's right there.
Here's right. If you don't give me what I want, I'm gonna be so mad that I'm going to watch the next episode to see if you give me what I want.
Yeah.
And they know that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. They know how algorithms work. We do finally jump back to the future. The whole team works together. Everyone is lovely. Tilly, I think, really shines in these last couple of episodes, especially. I think it's been really fun to watch her. And then we get kind of this interesting push-pull between Cornwall and like, I think her ethics of wanting to win the war, but perhaps go against what the Federation actually stands for. And we start this build for these last two episodes. However, we do get Georgiou, like Emperor Georgiou in our universe, which is even more fun than her in the Mirror universe.
Sure.
Because she has to have some restraint in our universe. So
right, because she's like, I have to find a way to survive. So I'm going to play with some of these rules, but bend them where I can bend them.
Like, to your point, like, where I feel like this is a real failure of the Federation at this moment where we have the Admiral, having to decide whether to uphold the values of the Federation or try to ensure its survival. Like, those two should never have to be a choice. And we have an organization in order to deal with that, a very illustrious, honorable organization called Section 31. And they have not done their job if we are at this point. So I'm expecting some heads to roll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This episode also has a lot of, I think this is kind of our emotional build to the final episode where we have a lot of stuff going on between Ash Tyler and
Burnham.
And Burnham. I was like Sonequa Martin Green. No, that's not her character's name. Between her and Burnham, between Burnham and Tyler. How would you react if you were Burnham in this situation?
Like, I think for me, you're watching it and I'm going like, I feel like she's really being a doofus in this moment, like an emotional doofus. But then she goes, but my parents were killed by Klingons. I go, that's what I forgot. Like if they had put that earlier again to remind us, I think I would go, I get it now. But because they push it to remind us for so long, it just seems like you're a little like racist.
See, I had the exact opposite take on it, where I was like, why is like the idea that she would want to be anywhere near him, and people are like, oh, you should talk to him. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
I feel like everyone forgave him very fast.
like super quick. Like this, I didn't buy that at all, because part of me is thinking, like, again, we're not talking about some Klingon, some random Klingon. This wasn't a Klingon who wanted to defect and has a heart of gold and was just, miscast as a spy. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Volk, right? Now, Burnham is say,
I know it's not Ash Tyler's fault, but it would be very hard for me to look at someone who's literally killed or tried to kill
me
and killed other people on the ship and went full Klingon meltdown in front of me.
Well, obviously, you speak of someone who has never had their spouse try to fool Klingon, like blah 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 blah. And I forgive my wife all the time. I forgive my wife all the time. She goes like, I go, did you do this or Klingon? She goes like, does it really matter? You're gonna forgive me anyway. It's just like Myrriah watching that Netflix show.
Well, and I can see. I mean, like some of the, I don't know. I think I get Tilly's reaction a bit more. But I felt like it was just very interesting to me to see like how everyone treated Burnham at the beginning of the series, right? And everyone's like, you're the mutineer, you killed all these, like they blamed her for so much, I think.
Which she didn't do.
She didn't do jack. And everyone was just like cold freaking shoulder to Burnham. Yeah, and then Ash Tyler, who literally killed Culber with his hands that they saw and tried to kill Burnham and was a secret Klingon.
Well,
everyone's like, we're going to have lunch with you tomorrow. I don't know. I just feel like there should be a little like, are you sure you're okay? Like a little more hesitation.
I get it. I understand. But like for we can agree that Volk killed Culber, not Ash, right?
Correct.
And you're making me defend Ash, and I do not like Ash. That's what pisses me off. That's what pisses me off. You're like, I'm just on the side of justice, But like,
I mean, I think I will say I think the actor is playing it so well. I think Shazad is doing an incredible job of playing
amazing.
An incredibly complex situation that has to be so confusing to figure out as an actor. When even as the viewer, I can hardly figure out where your character's motivations are coming from at any given point and like how he's coming to deal with it. And I think it comes to, kind of jumping to the finale a bit, but it's like that final scene between him and Burnham, I thought was very lovely in the way that they talked about the complicated feelings and that they have towards Klingons and like their understanding of like, yes, I have been harmed from this particular community, but I can't justify these horrendous actions that the Federation is trying to put upon them, right?
Yeah, I love that piece. I think from a Burnham in particular piece, like I think she does a good job of being able to look at the Klingons one way and go, look, I'm all, because here's what we're not saying. We're not saying Burnham go all racist and be like, I hate Klingons, we should kill them all. She's largely going, I want the Federation to be in a relationship with the Klingons. Like, I want to know how we can do that. This particular Klingon tried to kill her, killed someone she knew, betrayed her, and everybody's looking like, but it's not really Ash. And I'm thinking, that might be, but can we all stop pretending like Ash Tyler is the greatest person on the planet, the only man that she could ever be with? They haven't even known each other that long. Like, if I'm Burnham, I'm going, this is all interesting, but seems to be a little too much. I'm out, right? And I'm gonna be okay being out because Book's coming along in a little bit, and I'm gonna be good, right?
I'm not gonna lie. Good. I think Book sucks too. He can do better.
No, it's just his swag is a whole different swag than
that swag is not enough to build a relationship.
You say that now.
And he's got emotional empathy like powers and stuff. Like,
and then he goes
come
betrays
on.
everything. It's okay. It's all good.
Book is an upgrade.
Oh,
I'm just
Choopy,
saying.
I hit a trigger for Choopy. I apologize, Choopy.
Book does not suck in all caps.
Tell him, Chicky. Tell him, Choopy.
I did think the other thing that was a little hard to watch was the Stamets Tyler scene in the hallway in this episode. It's like, I really hope they warn Stamets that this dude is just like walking about, this guy who killed your husband, your beloved, with his bare hands.
Everything in me said Stamets gets like for like a week, maybe two, just free range to like punch that dude in the nose. Like you're at the replicator, you're getting some replicated soup or something, and you turn around, he's there, bop, and just move on. Like, because he's just walking around like it wasn't really me, it was my alter ego. It was
It's not even that. It's as if, like, there are two people in a house. And then
I get it, but it
apparently emotionally you guys do not,
because it looks like the same person. I think if I was Stamets, I would have
same house, so that
I would have a hard time. I would have a hard time.
No, I get it. I understand. It's tough.
It would be really tough. Okay, I want to jump to the finale because we're already 40 minutes in, and I have to talk about the Kronos like evil marketplace, which was so fun. I was like, finally, we're on an alien planet.
Like my biggest problem with the whole alien planet is the black market is whale is an endangered species, and Tilly just bought it like for like 50 cents. It should be pretty expensive, but they're
I mean, I guess it's a pretty big animal, and those were very small portions.
Maybe, but like you go get a tuna, you get some Toro. That's a pricey bit of thing, and here they're doing like
But that would be like if a tuna was the size of a house.
They are.
I mean,
a tiny house.
Here's my thing. Is I was like, you ate it. Like, we're not talking about some weird, Klingon roach. It's a space whale. It's already been cooked.
You obviously thought it was pretty all right because you've eaten a few bites.
Why spit it out? Go ahead and just
I guess
go ahead and finish.
But all of a sudden, Burnham finds out it's ganglion, and then she's like, oh,
that's different.
Why is that different?
Because
ganglion delicious, high in cholesterol, but delicious.
Ganglia is like eating an ear from a friend. Okay, that's very different than saying a space buffalo, right? Like, I've had bison, very tasty.
I've had ear, maybe not from a friend.
Listen, I know you do jiu-jitsu, Paul, so I don't know what happens in that ring, but like
there's a Mike Tyson.
But I did really enjoy the marketplace. I will say it felt like a little bit of a like very fast. I expected the finale to be longer, I think. As I was watching, I was like, oh, this one's still only like 45 minutes. And I thought it would be a little bit longer, and I forgot how kind of like quickly we really get to the end there, because I was really excited about, I mean, Tilly on the planet is so much fun.
It's very fun.
Her being like, oh no, thank you. And then Georgia being like, oh no, these are both for me. Peace out. Keep this thing safe. And then the smoking, the whale bit, like the way this was really a Tilly Shine episode, and I really enjoyed it. Even when she gets like promoted and there's a little wink, it was just like, loved it.
If I'm not mistaken, when she was on the planet, she had straight hair, didn't she?
Oh yes, she did.
Like, I love Tilly with straight hair. Like that, Tilly has straight hair. Like
I see your problems with curly textured hair.
No. Listen.
No, Myrriah has it right. She has it right. She's completely right. Like I'm so curly hair prejudiced. They should not be captains, Myrriah. How you like that? You got me saying on air. You got it. Okay. How you like me now? Phasers.
I don't know where this conversation is going, but I gotta say that. So
I
that's
removed
about
Paul.
right. That's perfect.
I'm
Listen,
just kidding, Paul.
I absolutely love curly hair. Love curly hair. It's a thing. Not gonna get into it. But Tilly with the straight hair, for whatever reason, is like, I'm with Paul on that. Like, and yeah.
She does look
all
more
day.
secret agent slick, is like what I like to call it.
Like I was just gonna make them.
It's a good wig. It's a really good wig.
Yeah, I think what I was
It's an
gonna say is
expensive
that basically whenever she, is like, oh, I'm an ensign, I'm a blah blah blah, curly hair. Whenever I'm a badass, straight hair. And I like how they do that throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
The episodes where she's like, "Oh, I'm just a little lab nerd. My hair's all up in a bun."
exactly.
Just kidding. Yeah,
Anyway,
it's good, but she's
it's
great.
a good choice. It's a good choice. It really dramatically affects her view look as a character.
Yeah.
To me,
Totally. Giorgio with her undercover getting information threesome was maybe one of the hottest things I've ever seen on television. That flip to the gun to the forehead was incredible. It was amazing.
no.
And I'm really glad we have chaotic evil bisexual representation on television. I'm here for it. I'm glad we get it.
All alignments matter.
All alignments matter.
Hey.
Especially the evil ones. Yeah, I think, it's interesting to see how they wrap it all up with like the Klingon houses have to come together. We have this sort of ally with Laurel. We've, found a way to kind of put her in charge. And then we sort of end it there with seemingly like, they call off the ships and everyone kind of comes home to figure out what to do with the Klingon Empire. But to me, it felt a little unfinished. And then we get this like, everything is holly jolly and we're off to Vulcan. And then we get a call to help the Enterprise, which to me, it's funny. I was so like enamored within the world of Discovery, even on this second watch, knowing it's coming when they start like the calls, like when 1701 starts to appear, I'm like, oh, I forgot we're still in prequel world.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because it just feels so different and so within itself that I was like, I forgot. Even with Sarek, even with like callback characters, it just feels like such its own place in space and time.
But didn't you, when you see that 17-0, didn't it just like spark something?
When the score plays at the credits, I got so excited. Like,
it felt right. Like it felt like, oh yeah, like something special's coming. Now, I'll be honest, I took a peek at the next episode and I'm reminded that how annoyed I was because they tease us with Spock for like
so long.
most of the season, where I'm just like, that was kind of a dick move. Like,
it's like Michelle Yeoh not fighting in a Netflix series.
Yes.
Yeah, but the difference is Michelle Yeoh probably starts fighting in episode 2. This would be like if Michelle Yeoh doesn't fight until like the season finale, where I'm like, dude, like I remember there was, and they ramp it up and give you so much that it's just this thing that they keep holding out there, that at some point it turned from excitement to frustration. At least for me, I was kind of like, look, don't keep teasing me. I'm not that dude.
Not that dude. Don't edge me. Don't edge me, dude.
I did realize I forgot to read the credits of the other episodes, and I do like making sure we include them. So episode 13, What's Past Is Prologue, was directed by Olatunde Onsunsame. It was written by Ted Sullivan. 14, The War Within, was directed by David Solomon and written by Lisa Randolph. And then the finale, Will You Take My Hand, is directed by Akiva Goldsman. Story by Akiva Goldsman, Gretchen J. Berg, and Aaron Harberts. Teleplay by Gretchen J. Berg and Aaron Harberts. So lots of hands to get that finale across the line.
I gotta say, I love the parallel when Burnham calls out. Like at the beginning of this, I felt like I had to do whatever I had to do that violated Starfleet principles for the sake of saving people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was basically just hung out to dry for that. And now here we are, and you want to do the same thing? That's not who Starfleet is. I thought that was an amazing moment and a great parallel of going, look, you all condemned me. And then when you got put in the same situation, you did the same thing I did. Well, let me tell you, you don't want to do it. Like, I just thought that was an amazing, like amazing kind of callback and kind of closing the book on that.
I like your interpretation of it. Like for me, when I saw it, I was going like, man, there it is. Like, the state can act like a dick, but the citizens cannot. Even if and I was like, oh, that even in space paradise. That's
Well, I think it's also interesting because this first season is such a departure, I think, from what we were used to seeing of the Federation, because it was so wrapped up in the Klingon War and it was so extra violent, and it was a lot of people just doing whatever it took to win or to get back to where they wanted. It was just a lot of people with stakes beyond the ideals I think we were presented from the original series. So I can definitely see, like, I really enjoy it. I love Discovery. I have a great time watching it, but I can see where some people argue about it being a departure from the Trek that they knew. I don't agree with the people who are like, it's too woke, it's all blah, 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 blah. Like, those people obviously have not been paying attention. Where I see it is in those like tones and themes of, instead of like space exploration and finding frontiers and like problem solving as a group, it was, especially this first season, was essentially a war sci-fi show. And while there had been like episodes that dealt with those things, it was never like full season long. Like the Klingon War was such a ebb and flow throughout this entire season, and then we went to the Myrriah universe where everything was also dark and treacherous and evil. And so it was like, I don't know if it's also just the time and place of watching it currently with what's going on in the world, but it definitely didn't feel like hope in a lot of ways. So getting to the end and having the Enterprise kind of show up, I went, oh, I'm excited now for next season. I think it's going to be less war, more Discovery, is what I felt like at the end.
Well, I mean, you talk about, yeah, you talk about the black market scene, right? Like the black market scene screams, not your parents' Star Trek, right?
Yeah, we got naked, green people.
Song action. I was like, man,
that's not even
song,
thong. That was a
song,
G string. That was a G. Like that was cheeks just out. But I think that's why people love Strange New Worlds so much. It's because between Discovery and Picard, it's like there's so much new. Strange New World feels like this is the Trek that you were expecting when we told you we were bringing back Star Trek. And I think that's why it has such a huge following so easily. And, Handsome Mount is kind of great. So.
And I think it's why I love Lower Decks too, and a lot of the series. I mean, I think this version of Discovery, or this version of Star Trek, was very much a in response to prestige television and the rise of prestige television and serialized storytelling. And I think they did I had a great time watching this first season, and I'm excited to revisit the second season. And where is I going with this thought? I had something and then I lost it.
and live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. But I think it felt like it feels like modern Star Trek. It's like if we didn't know anything about Star Trek and this was a sci-fi show, and you're like, this is Star Trek, and like you're introducing the ideals of the Federation in this way, I think by the end of it you do get it, because you see Burnham as that true North Star of what the Federation is supposed to be, right?
Yeah. And I think it's different, and it's more of, here's what Trek becomes. Because the interesting thing about Burnham is, from day one we realize that she's not Kirk or Riker or any of the people who in previous Trek kind of shot from the hip, bent the rules, and got away with it, she immediately does something in the pilot and is basically sent, court-martial for it.
Mhm.
Whereas if you think about it, that's a situation where we've probably seen Kirk mutiny. How many times has Kirk in one of has basically said, I'm gonna do something that the captain doesn't want me to do anyway, right?
Yeah, I think we've seen it from other captains and major characters before, and it's definitely a different repercussion in this series for sure. Any other thoughts on this first season, y'all?
I'm good. I think we were doing it.
We are doing it. To keep y'all informed, to make sure we finish everything up by the time the new series comes in April, we're going to be splitting each season into 2 parts for the next series. So we'll be discussing season 2, part 1, and I'll post the episodes on our social media and our Slack channel. We're going to take a week off. We'll be back on February 1st, Thursday, February 1st. So we can talk about season 2, part 1, and then we'll be back for February 8th for season 2, part 2. We're going to take Valentine's Day off so that we can all go do things with our significant others. And then we'll be back for season 3 in 2 parts on the 22nd and 29th. Season 4 we will do in March. So I'm excited to keep trekking along, revisiting Discovery.
They say keep trucking along, keep trekking along.
Oh, keep trekking along would have been the better version of that. I said trucking, but yeah, I'm excited. Dig on in. We got Search for Spock coming up. We get to see old Ethan Peck getting in. Handsome Mount.
Cool.
Rebecca Romaine. Oh, I'm excited for some Rebecca Romaine.
Amazing.
It's going to be a good time. Okay, y'all. Thank you to those who joined us here live in the chat. We appreciate y'all. For everyone listening, thank you so much. You can rate, review, subscribe, share the show. If you head over to Apple or to Spotify, you can give us 5 stars. We really appreciate that. It helps other people find the show, especially as we're getting ready for this final season of Disco. Visit StarTrekPod.co for links to everything, as well as to our Patreon. You can follow us over on X and on Instagram at Star Trek Pod. We'll see you all next time. Live long and prosper, y'all. Bye-bye.
Live long and prosper. Bye. Bye-bye.